Harbin, Manchuria, January 1939, 3:47 a.m. The cold doesn't ask permission. It cuts through wool, through flesh, through thought itself. A man's breath freezes before it leaves his lips. The stars above northeastern China are sharp as bayonets. Inside a compound ringed with electric fences and guard towers, lights burn through the night. Not the warm glow of a hospital. Something colder, more deliberate. The buildings are low, gray, anonymous, the kind of architecture designed not to be remembered. But the sounds that occasionally escape the walls, those are harder to forget. You can almost feel the wind off the frozen Songhua River. Almost smell the antiseptic that coats everything here like a second skin. This is Zhongma Fortress, and within a few years, it will grow into something the world has no name for yet. Its commander is a man named Shirō Ishii, a surgeon, a visionary, a lieutenant general in the Imperial Japanese Army, and by almost every measure of human decency, a monster. He doesn't look like one. He's charming, precise, academically brilliant. He convinced the Japanese military that biological warfare was the future, cheap, invisible, devastating. Where a bomb destroys buildings, a plague destroys populations. Ishii understood something terrifying. The most effective weapon doesn't explode. It breathes. By 1936, the operation has outgrown its first location. Ishii moves the program south to a small town called Pingfang, just outside Harbin. He builds an empire, not metaphorically, literally. 6 square kilometers of fortified research facilities, airstrips, crematoriums, residential quarters for over 3,000 Japanese scientists, doctors, and soldiers. Prisons built underground, out of sight, their concrete walls sweating with cold and something worse. The locals are told it's a lumber mill. The sign above the gate reads, Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Guangdong Army. A name so bureaucratic it numbs the mind into compliance. It is called Unit 731. The prisoners inside, Chinese civilians, Soviet POWs, Korean laborers, and even a handful of Americans, are not referred to as patients. They are not referred to as prisoners either. In the sterile language of Unit 731, they are called Maryuta, the Japanese word for logs. Logs, for a lumber mill, a name chosen not by accident, but with the specific purpose of removing humanity from the equation. You cannot feel guilt about a log. You cannot look a log in the eyes. And in the frozen laboratories of Pingfang, that psychological distance is what allows otherwise ordinary men to do extraordinary evil. Inside the facility, the experiments begin before dawn and continue past midnight. Dr. Shiro Kasahara, Dr. Masaji Kitano, dozens of researchers with university credentials and published papers, men who trained to heal, now cataloging how quickly a human body succumbs to plague, cholera, anthrax, typhoid. The methodology is rigorous. That's what makes it so disturbing. Prisoners are infected with bubonic plague through flea bites, controlled, measured, documented. Others are exposed to aerosolized anthrax in sealed chambers. Some are taken outside in -30-degree temperatures, their arms submerged in frozen water until frostbite progresses from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, all while researchers take notes with the detached calm of men checking weather instruments. You can almost hear the scratch of pencil on paper, the clinical murmur of dictated observations. And when the data has been collected, when the Maryuta can no longer serve a research purpose, there is the crematorium. Efficient, final, designed to leave no evidence. Between 1937 and 1945, an estimated 3,000 people die inside Unit 731. Some historians placed the number higher. The records were largely destroyed. Ishii made sure of that. But Ishii is not content with laboratory results. He wants proof, field proof, the kind that can be written into a military doctrine and handed to generals. Beginning in 1940, Unit 731 launches biological attacks on Chinese cities. The delivery mechanisms are almost elegant in their horror. Low-flying aircraft releasing ceramic bombs, not explosive, but fragile, designed to shatter on impact and release their contents. Fleas carrying Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the Black Death. Ningbo, Changde, Suzhou, village after village, city after city. In Ningbo alone, plague breaks out within days of the bombing run. Bodies appear in markets, in alleyways, in homes. Chinese medical workers, already stretched thin by years of war, struggle to contain what they don't yet understand. They don't know to look up. They don't know it came from the sky. The Japanese military logs the results like crop yields. Infection rates, mortality curves, secondary transmission statistics. Over the course of the war, Unit 731's biological operations may have killed hundreds of thousands of Chinese civilians. The numbers are disputed, the evidence deliberately obscured, but the intent was never in question. Ishii called it the future of warfare. He was not wrong about its potential. He was simply willing to prove it on human beings. By 1945, the war is turning. Everyone inside Pingfong knows it, though no one says it aloud. American B-29s are hammering Japanese cities from above. Soviet forces are massing on the Manchurian border. The empire that once seemed invincible is beginning to fracture along every seam. Ishii has a plan for this too. Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night. A proposal seriously entertained by Japanese high command to use submarine-launched aircraft to carry plague-infected fleas across the Pacific and release them over the California coast. San Diego, Los Angeles, cities full of people who have no immunity, no preparation, no warning. The operation is scheduled for September 1945. It never happens. Japan surrenders on August 15th. The margin between history and catastrophe is, sometimes, measured in weeks. On August 9th, 1945, the same day the atomic bomb falls on Nagasaki, Soviet forces cross the Manchurian border. Ishii receives his orders. Destroy everything. The prisoners are killed. The records are burned. The animals used in experiments are incinerated. Buildings are demolished. In 72 hours, the most sophisticated biological warfare program in human history is reduced to rubble, ash, and the deliberate silence of men who know exactly what they've done. Ishii flees south. He reinvents himself as a country doctor in rural Japan. For a time, it seems like he will simply disappear into peacetime the way a stone disappears into water. But the Americans are coming, and they have questions. What follows is one of the most morally corrosive decisions in post-war history. American intelligence officers, specifically from the Biological Warfare Division, interview Ishii and his researchers. They review the data, the plague experiments, the frostbite studies, the aerosol dispersal tests, years of research that no ethical review board would ever have permitted, purchased at a cost in human lives that no Western scientist could publicly acknowledge. General Douglas MacArthur's headquarters makes a calculation. The data is too valuable to discard. Soviet intelligence is circling. If the Americans don't secure this information, Moscow will. And so a deal is struck. Immunity. For Ishii. For Kitano. For dozens of Unit 731's researchers. In exchange for their data, their cooperation, their expertise, they walk free. No Nuremberg trial. No public reckoning. No sentence. Shirō Ishii dies in 1959. In his bed. Of throat cancer. At the age of 67. The men who performed surgery on living prisoners without anesthesia, not to treat them, but to observe, return to civilian life. Some become respected physicians, university professors, prominent members of their communities. The Maryuta have no graves. Their families receive no notification. Their names, in most cases, are never recovered. Decades later, the truth begins to surface. Chinese researchers, Japanese journalists, American historians, all pushing against the official silence. In 1949, the Soviet Union puts captured Unit 731 members on trial in Khabarovsk. The testimony is specific, detailed, and almost entirely ignored by the Western press. The Cold War has already rearranged everyone's priorities. It isn't until the 1980s that Haruki Mori, a Japanese journalist, publishes his investigation into Unit 731, based on interviews with surviving researchers willing, finally, to speak. The reaction in Japan is seismic. The government's official position remains one of deflection and partial acknowledgement. The full reckoning has never arrived. In Pingfong, where the complex once stood, there is now a museum. Visitors walk through reconstructed corridors. They look at photographs behind glass. They read plaques. You can almost feel the weight of what isn't said. The silence between the exhibits. The absence where the names should be. History, when it's convenient, gets monuments. When it isn't, it gets footnotes. Unit 731 is both.